What is the key to having $1 million brand? A brand that people are drawn to, a brand that succeeds, a brand that grows, a brand that scales, a brand that looks professional. This is part 2 in a 4-part series I'm sharing on premium brands and creating $1 million brand. And next week I'm sharing about how you can make sure that you're equipping your team to make $1 million graphics as well. If you're in business and you are ready to have a brand that just oozes everything that you want it to ooze and just screams professionalism because you're ready to grow that thing, then you're going to want to listen to today's episode. I'm going to chat through the 5 common traits all $1 million brands have in common, as well as a bonus 6th trait that I think is a little bit controversial, but I thought it was absolutely worth sharing with you because I think it's a big one. So let's dive in. Hi, if we haven't met before, my name is Jacqui and I am the CEO at White Deer Graphic Design, and I've been in business for 10 plus years now, helping hundreds of business owners create their own incredible brand and graphics, and me and the team are also doing it for our clients as well. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's that there are some really, really common threads between the brands that do really, really amazing and the brands that are kind of more ticking along. And if you want a business that just ticks along, that is totally, totally fine. You can still use these principles to help your business to look professional. But if you're especially in the business to grow, to become a premium brand, whether you are actually charging a premium or you want to sell lots of a smaller, more affordable offer, either way, you can be $1 million brand. And I want to share with you some of the traits that I notice around these brands, because visuals share a lot about how we are perceived. Obviously, we do honestly as human beings judge books by their cover. I want to share with us today some examples of, you know what, you can really, really impact the first impression, the lasting impression, the ongoing impression that someone has of your brand through the way that it looks, through a couple of little visual tweaks, through a couple of visual styles that we're going to look at today. They're going to help your brand to look premium, professional, and in demand. Now, before we dive into looking at those 5 plus a bonus 6th trait, then I want to just let you know that if you are ever wanting to grow your business in this way, if you are $1 million brand, if you've got you or your team or you're growing in all of this stuff and you want support beyond these free YouTube or podcast episodes, I do have a program called the Co-Creation Design Club. And it is designed for business owners wanting to scale their business, who are wanting to use design to elevate their brand, to grow their business, to scale their business. Whether it's them or their team or both of you diving into this program, it is for you. I'm going to share more about this program at the end, but I just wanted to let you know that that exists. There'll be a link in the show notes and description if you want to learn more. Alrighty, so the first common trait that I believe all $1 million brands have in common is the ability to move quickly in a fast-paced industry. Friends, this, especially if you're in the online world, which I personally am, things are moving at a breakneck speed. There's new trends coming in, there's new ideas coming in. You want to share a lead magnet, you want to share a course, you want to do this, you want to do that, you want to have this great idea, or some really trending world topic comes up and you want to put an Instagram post up to match it, or you have this really incredible idea late one night and you're like, I need to pop it out there in the world instantly. And what I've noticed is that $1 million brands, the brands that are keeping up with everything that's going on, that are staying ahead of the curve, that are making steps, that are leading the way, they can do so because they can create graphics on the go that elevate their brand. There's 2 options really to create graphics, and one is to hire and outsource, and 2 is to do them in-house. And when you do them in-house, there's usually 2 directions we can go. We can either do them really well or we can do them really poorly. Obviously, doing them really well elevates our brand, continues to help to grow our brand, or if we do them badly, it actually drags our business down and people can sniff out that we are not the professionals that we claim to be. And the other option is to outsource to hire a designer to do those things. But the problem we have with that is you cannot move quickly. I am a designer, my design team does incredible jobs, but we cannot move and do things in half a day's notice. If you've got this really great idea or you want to move quickly, unless you have us on retainer, and we don't offer that anymore to any new clients because we're booked out with retainer, and even our retainer clients still need to wait a few days and still kind of give us warning to get things out quickly, and by which point you've been left behind. The momentum has been lost, the trend has been finished, you're not ahead of the curve anymore. And so doing your designs in-house is really quite important, and usually either it's you as a business owner doing it or a VA doing it or someone in that kind of role. And usually if those 2 people, you or your VA, are not equipped to do your designs well, that's going to drag down your business. And so this really great idea that you had, that you spent time ruminating on, that you're like, this is going to really hit the mark, you quickly get it out there, but then it actually fails because it looks really poor. And so I think what $1 million brands have in common is not only the ability to move quickly, but the ability to move quickly and strategically and beautifully. they can have a great idea. They can share it with their VA because their VA is actually equipped to create really great designs. That's the kind of stuff I teach them in the Co-Creation Design Club. I can work with them to design really great graphics for you and your business. And so there's this idea that you want to move quickly, but you don't want to do it at the cost of looking rubbish. And so when you move quickly in your business, work out, do I or my team have the ability to not just move quickly, but to move quickly strategically, using strategic design, using beautiful design, using design that elevates my brand rather than drags it down for the sake of being quick. The second trait that I believe all $1 million businesses have in common is consistency, and not just consistency on the Instagram feed, but consistency across every single touch point of their business. So if you think about the customer journey of someone when they first see your business to when they're purchasing and working from you to when they're finished working from you, there are so many different touch points. In fact, before someone chooses to work with you, usually they have to cross quite a few different touch points to build that trust, to build that rapport, and good graphics usually helps to shorten that time. But still, whether they're seeing a Facebook ad, following you on Instagram, going to your website, looking at your different offer, maybe downloading a lead magnet, there are so many visual touch points that I've just listed just in the getting to know you phase of your business, where you need to make sure that all those different touch points are consistent, that when they come to your Instagram or your Facebook ad or their lead magnet, everything is feeling like it's from the same business. Not only does that scream, I'm legit, like I've actually thought this business through, this isn't just a haphazard, not just chucking spaghetti at the wall and just hoping that it sticks. This is a solid business plan that is legit, you know, and your graphics can do that and convey that when there's this consistency across the touch points. And so not only do you have that consistency across those early touch points like website, lead magnet, Instagram, ads, whatever you're working on for that kind of like that connection phase with people, but then there's also this building that trust phase, like on everything on your website, everything on like your emails, like does all of that look consistent? Is the branding consistent across all those touch points? And not only that, is it consistent once they purchase from you, once they jump into one of your programs, once they purchase your product, does everything still look consistent once they jump inside? So this is an example from my brand. You'll see that every single touch point looks the same. We have this really great consistency. What that means is that when someone goes to my Instagram, maybe jumps on my YouTube channel, maybe listens to my podcast or sees an ad, and then they jump to my website, they're not like, oh, have I clicked the right link? Am I in the right spot? Is this person doing the same thing as I thought they were doing? There's no second guessing. It's just a really smooth journey, because if we have our audience second guessing, our potential leads second guessing, they're more likely to say, nah, I'm good. As consumers, we are looking for reasons to jump out. We're looking for reasons to not spend money. And so we want to make sure we're not giving our audience any of those reasons. So building this consistency across every touch point totally nurtures them, helps them to trust you, and also builds a sense of expectation of what's next in this journey with this person. So you can see that each step in my journey, from getting to know me even more, and then purchasing from me, everything is consistent within that journey. And I think that is so important, and very much something I see a lot of business owners forgetting when they're on the way to trying to build that $1 million premium brand. All right, so common trait number 3 is that we need to have designs that align with our brand message and vibe. So what I'm meaning by that is that every single graphic that you create needs to be backing up what you want your business to share. What is your brand? Brand isn't just about a pretty color. It's like, what does that pretty color represent? What do I want people to feel when they look at my brand? Do I want it to feel really fun and playful? Or do I want it to feel really professional, corporate? Do I want it to feel really relaxed? Or do I want it to feel really motivating? What do you want people to feel? What your price point is? If you're kind of a more playful person or a more serious person, all of these things can come across in your brand. And what I see over and over again is that $1 million brands have thought about this. They've considered it. They've strategically worked out what they want their brand to represent, and then they use that consistently. And this is something I really go into when I work with my clients in the Co-Creation Design Club, is we really go in and we say, all right, what is the strategy? We spend a whole, like the first bonus you get the instant you sign up is it what I call the brand planner workbook, where this steps you through the foundations of your brand to make sure that everything is actually aligned. Is it aligned with who you want to talk to? Is it aligned with what you want to represent? Is it aligned with your price point? All of these things visually get portrayed through the graphics that we share on our business, and we need to make sure that our business is sharing that right message. It's sharing the right vibe. It's saying to people the first second they glance at our Instagram or our website or a freebie what we're all about, because those visuals are sharing that. And so I've got some examples here. If you're listening on the podcast, feel free to jump over to the blog post to catch the full example of this. But I've got 3 examples here from $1 million brands. And you can see here, I want you to just look at them and work out, what are the vibes? Like, what do you feel when you look at these brands? Do they feel like fun and playful? Do they feel serious? Like, if you were to work with Natalie here, would it, like you, for me, when I see the cursive font and the minimal kind of style, it feels really like professional and edgy and clean, but but it's not kind of like, it's not boring because it's got like this pop of color. With Social Bungalow here with Shannon, you kind of feel a little bit more playful with that edge. It's a little bit more busy, and it's got a few different emojis in here. It's got a few different kind of colors rather than just beige. And then working up to here with Word Fetty, you can see that their brand is quite colorful. And so all of these brands, they portray a different feel, and you can see the consistency around these is huge. And I can guarantee if you go to the websites, it also carries through that consistency. And so for you and your business, does your branding represent the value, the vibe, the message that you're wanting to portray? And does it do that consistently? Got 10 minutes? Perfect, because that is all you need to give your Instagram feed a makeover that positions you as the go-to expert in your industry and boosts those organic sales. I want to give you a free guide that walks you through the 3 insider tweaks to make your feed feel authentic yet polished, weave in your brand effortlessly, and boost your posts with pro design tricks. Just head to whitedeer.com.au/IG makeover and grab the free 10-minute IG makeover guide. Let's turn your feed into a sales machine. All right, let's get back to the episode. The next common trait I want to share with you is around design and design principles, and it is the idea of margin and space. If I'm being honest with you, this was the thing that I struggled the most with as a human being to do. It took me years as a graphic designer to learn this, but the impact of using margin and space in your designs is one of the quickest ways to create professional looking graphics. Like, I cannot tell you how quickly changing it and adding margin and space to your designs will help it to look premium, will help it to look $1 million, will help it to look professional. And so to do this, all I want you to do is when you're designing a graphic, keep everything away from the edges. If you're using Canva, usually a little pink box kind of pops up and that lets you know, you know what? If you want to stay inside these edges with your main content, it'll probably look really great. And so just keep everything away from the edges. And then if you create any boxes within your design, keep the text away from the edges of that box. Create space, give breathing room, and the impact will be huge. Again, if you're watching on YouTube, you'll see an example I've just showed up here, and it shows 2 designs and they are mostly very similar. The content is identical, but the way that it's designed is so different. This one feels really tight and haphazard because all of the text is really, really close to the edges, and it's close to the edges of the boxes that I put within the design as well. So for those of you listening on the podcast, there's some text at the top that says free challenge, and that text is really tight. It's like there's a colorful box behind that text, and it's really tight to that text, and all the text is really close to the edges of the design, and it just feels really cramped, unspacious, unclean, unprofessional. Whereas when you move across to this one, it's got all the exact same text, but all I've done is brought everything away from the edges. And not only have I brought the text away from the edges of the whole design, but even the text inside boxes in the design has also been brought away from the edges of that box. And that just helps the design to feel clean, breathable, and professional. So do yourself a favor when you're trying to build that premium dollar brand, bring things away from the edges. And of course, if you're in a program with me, I will be helping you do that. You'll share a design with me and I'll say, hey, you know what? I love that you've tried, but let's bring the text away from the edges even more. Let's bring that image away from the edge even more. And you'll be so surprised at the results. The last common trait I want to share with you before we dive into our bonus trait is this idea that we want a really clean and clear message that we can read at a glance. Design that's performing these days is not design that is busy and saying too much and trying to kind of put everything in this one graphic. Design these days is clean, it's professional, and it's trying to not do too much. It's trying to, it's splitting its information up. It's not trying to put like a whole ginormous chunk of text in one part of the website. It's not trying to put your whole caption into one Instagram post. It's not trying to put your whole life story into the flyer design. It's really thinking about your key message, sharing that, and then expanding on it in other places. Like for an Instagram post, having clear punchy text on the title, expanding in the caption, or expanding in the carousel swiping across, you know? So I've got an example. If you're watching on the YouTube, you'll see this now. And on the text, you'll read this first. Next, you'll head down here and next to all this extra information. And for those of you listening on the podcast, what I've done is I've shared a graphic that has large text, medium text, and small text. And we can watch our eye work through this text, taking a visual journey. This concept is called hierarchy. We think about when we're creating a graphic, what is the first thing you want someone's attention to be captured by? Like, is it a really great point that you're wanting to share? Is it a really great hook? Like, what are you trying to share with people? And get really clear on that yourself so you can then create designs, or your VA can create designs that are going to make that point largest, and then the points underneath that less large, less like smaller. Create contrast between your key text and your subtext. Create huge size contrast or color contrast. Like, you have your heading far, far larger than your body text, because that's what's going to create really great hierarchy in design and make it really clear when someone's scrolling, when someone's glancing at your webpage, they can see at a glance what the most important piece of information is, and they can work out, is this for me or is this not for me? And $1 million brands are really clear on their strategy, really clear on their content, and they're also really clear on designing that in a really strategic way. That reminds me, inside the Co-Creation Design Club, because I know that design isn't the be all and end all of business, I also have a marketing coach that comes in every single month and presents a marketing masterclass for my club clients so that they can actually make sure they're utilizing marketing strategies and marketing principles in their designs as well. So I totally recommend learning how to market your business well, because that's going to play into how well your graphics are being designed and performing as well. And so think through, what is my hierarchy? What is my message? And can I cull this text down a little bit? So I've got some examples here of 3 Instagram posts that I found just in the Explore tab. The Explore tab is a really great place to do research because it's usually the most performing posts. You can see here that you need a social media manager. This text is so much larger than 25 reasons why, because you need a social media manager is what's going to capture my attention if I'm looking for a social media manager. If I'm just scrolling through Instagram, that's what's going to capture my attention. Same with the pst. That's kind of going like, oh, that feels like a secret. I want to listen in. And just post it is bolded. It's trying to bring out that hierarchy. And you can see all of these posts, they don't have a ton of information. This one is a carousel. This one is a carousel. They've expanded on the information somewhere else rather than trying to fit everything in one, which clutters up the design and makes it hard to read. That hierarchy is not there as much. And lastly, this one here is quite a simple design. It's just pretty much clear text, but the word business is in a different font. So it's bringing that to my attention. If I'm in business, I'm like, oh, business. Oh yeah, I can't run a business by only showing up when you're motivated. That's so true. That is so true. And so doing that kind of thinking is really important. You can even see here, like they've got Coco PSA and Coastal Collective. Like they've got other text here, but you barely look at that. Same with here, because you're focused on the main text because they've used that as a key hierarchical point. Whereas if they were to make this text here and this text here a lot larger, this text would lose its oomph and I would just scroll on past. So $1 million brands are getting noticed. They are really strategic about the content they want you to see, the hook they need you to read, and everything else comes in second because they want you to make sure that you get that clear information and that captures your attention. All right, now to that controversial 6th point. I want to share with you the common trait I believe all $1 million businesses have in common, but can be a little bit controversial. And this is the minimal design aesthetic. Now, I want to add a caveat here of I don't think you need to be minimal as in minimal, but you do need to be minimal as in minimal. You following me? No, but I am going to show you some examples. If you are listening to the podcast, I will try my best to explain these examples, but I do recommend jumping over to the podcast blog and you'll see examples of what I'm going to share now, or jumping onto the YouTube version of this and seeing me sort of speak through each of these. But in essence, I want to share with you 3 different grids here. All right, this example here from Hello Media, you can see that her designs are quite simple. There's lots of them just have text, lots of them just have a picture with some text on top, but it's not like overly minimal. There is still some fun things happening. There's funky shapes going on here. There's emojis happening. Like, it's not boring minimal, but it is quite minimal in terms of there's not like a lot of different things happening. I think that's a really big key to premium brands. And it's something that I'm sharing quite regularly with my clients in the club at the moment is, all right, let's strip it back. You don't have to feel like you have to add everything in here. Even my own brand, which is quite playful and busy, it still is relatively stripped back on the main parts of it. The text is quite clean. When I use elements, I use them quite sparingly, or they're part of the background. And so just thinking through how can I kind of strip back my brand, because that will help it to look more premium, but you don't have to strip back all personality. You can see like she's using some fun colors, she's using some fun emojis. There's still that personality there, even though it's quite minimal. This design here for Sunrise's studio here, you can see that their branding, again, it's quite minimal. It's just text on a picture. Text by itself, text on a picture. And this is quite a more of a classic minimal brand. It's even quite minimal in its colors. It's quite beigey. What's actually making this work is the high contrast that I was talking about before with the hierarchy. This huge contrast in the size of the text, the fact of having large text and really small text. That's what's going to elevate your graphics. And so you can have minimal, and that's totally going to work too. Or this brand here, it's also quite minimal, but the colors still make it fun. It still brings in that personality. And so how can you bring in personality while still having it minimal? We've got really clean text, but really highlighting a word or two with a different font, bringing in some different kinds of colors, bringing in fun photos. Working out what is different, what is my edge, using that really consistently, but not feeling like you need to overdo it with 1,000 different elements, 1,000 different fonts, 1,000 different colors, choosing what you want, sticking with it, and not trying to overcomplicate the design. You'll see all of these designs I'm sharing now really use that margin and space. They use hierarchy. They use all of these design principles I've just been sharing about, with a kappa of using minimalism as a bit of a vibe to bring everything together. And so I hope that's been really useful for you as you think through, how can my brand be premium? How can I elevate my business and call in those premium clients, call in the brand that I want to be and the brand that I want to use to scale this business? And so I hope you love those traits. I wanted to mention this is part 2 in a 4-part series I'm sharing on premium brands and creating $1 million brand. And next week I'm sharing about how you can make sure that you're equipping your team to make $1 million graphics as well. Thank you for joining me. And if you want to join me in the Co-Creation Club, please do so. I would absolutely love to have you. Applications are open right now and I can work with you and your team to create $1 million brand. See you next week for another episode. Bye.